Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in for today's session. I am so very excited to get to share with you a brand new line of products that I'm really loving and also a great haircut that we're going to combine today. And I cannot wait to get into this with you. So thank you to all of you who are joining live here for this session. I do just want to let you know that you are absolutely free to drop any questions into the chat today. This is definitely going to be an interactive workshop for us together. But before we begin, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Kelly Rettenberger, and I am a national trainer for John Paul Mitchell Systems. And today we are going to be talking about all things Paul Mitchell Clear. This is a beautiful line that we know that both stylists and customers have been asking for. This is completely dye and fragrance free. So it is a line that absolutely anyone is able to use. And we're going to dive into all of the ways that I love using this. I've been using this in the salon for a while now, and my customers are just loving it. And like I said, it's something that people have been asking for. So we're going to dive into that, and also this beautiful shaggy shape. And I think that this is something that is really key to have in your hair cutting pocket, because this is something that we're getting requests for all the time. You find that you're going to be able to get a lot of movement out of this shape. We're going to talk about which customer this is going to be great for and ways that you can adapt this behind the chair. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first, I do just want to talk about our foundation products in this, and this is going to be the essential shampoo and the essential conditioner. And as you can see, yes, this is the conditioner. It is 100% clear. And so I really love that Paul Mitchell has really taken into consideration those customers who are looking for products that are free of dyes and free of fragrance. And I know that I especially have fragrance sensitive customers that come in and they're looking for products that they don't have to worry are going to give them sensitivity issues. So if you have those customers that are looking for things that are free of fragrance, this is a great way to go. I will say that it was a little bit of a learning curve with the conditioner. First of all, I think just having something that is clear sort of puts you like out of your comfort zone a little bit. So just know that the proof is really in the beautiful way that this rinses out and the way that the hair feels. So you get a gorgeous lather out of the shampoo. It's really great for removing buildup, and it really can be used for any hair type. The conditioner, as you can see, it has this beautiful gel consistency, which I think is a little bit different than what we're used to, but it gives beautiful hydration and slip to the hair. One of the things that I love about this product is the fact that it is lightweight, which means it can be used for any customer. So if you have someone that is maybe that person's like, I don't use conditioner, it just is too heavy on my hair, especially for guests that are looking for this kind of movement, that customer is really going to enjoy something like this because their hair is not going to get weighed down. So it's a perfect place to start. That is what I went through for this shape today. So let's talk a little bit about these shaggy cuts, right? Now, one thing that I will let you know is you're going to be able to do this super quickly. We're only taking 4 sections and we're going to be subsectioning that. So it's going to be very on pace, very fast. And I'm going to show you how you can use your body position to create this haircut really quickly. So we're going to just be taking a few sections and using our body position. Now you can see that we have a really nice little fringe that has a lot of texture and movement. This looks like I took a lot more steps than I did to be able to get this. And again, it's all in that body positioning. And then as we work through, we have a beautiful shape with lots of movement and texture. So this is something that I think is very friendly for our customer that is looking for wash and wear hair, or also that person that's looking to add a little bit of style to it. So this was actually just air dried. So it's really easy for someone who's looking for, again, that wash and wear natural look. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to pop her over to the side here. And I know that, this sort of like shaggy style, right? We've heard it called the shag. We've heard it called the wolf cut. It's constantly having iterations, and it's just tweaks on those classic haircuts that create trends, right? So you can only reinvent the wheel so many times. So it's those little tips and tricks that make it fresh and make it appropriate for what everyone is asking for. So if you have those customers that are asking for this, this is going to really give you the way to create that. And I'll talk to you about a few ways that I like to customize this for a customer, and we're going to dive into that very quickly. So, number one, the thing that I'm going to say is you absolutely want to have the hair completely saturated. So, evenly saturated everywhere. I did go through and shampoo, obviously, and condition. So, we're going to go ahead and just get this re-wet down, especially through this fringe line. We want to make sure that everything is completely saturated. It doesn't have to be drippy, but you do want to make sure that there aren't any dry spots. So she feels pretty even now. So let's talk a little bit about our two styling products that we currently have. I'm going to go through with the Clear Smoothing Serum. So this is a beautiful serum that adds a lot of slip to the hair. It adds softness. It's going to help cut down on dry time and also prevent frizz. So I really like to use this as a cutting lotion. So whether I'm using a scissor, whether I'm using a razor, today we're going to be using a scissor, but it does just help cut down on the friction on the hair. So I'm just going to take this, unlock it, and we are just going to use one pump. Super concentrated. We don't need a lot here, and especially when I'm using it as a cutting lotion. So this has silicone agents to really help, again, protect the hair, keep it frizz-free, and it is 100% fragrance-free. And we are not just talking about products that have maskers or masking agents that block fragrance. This is completely free of fragrance, which is really key when you have those guests that have those skin sensitivities. There is absolutely no scent to this. So I have to say that one of my number one client that I find the customer that really likes this is that guest that is looking for polished hair, but maybe they don't want something highly fragrant. If you are used to, let's say, Paul Mitchell's Super Skinny Serum, I think everyone is, it's a cult favorite, but that does have a fragrance to it. And this is completely fragrance free. I find that a lot of my male guests are actually really enjoying this because I know that a lot of guys are loving to rock a wavy or curly texture right now. And it's nice to have something that is going to help reduce the frizz, not feel like product, not look like product, but just really help control the hair. It also works really well in a beard to control the hair. So those are a couple extra ways that I recommend using this product. It's beautiful, and I just find that it is a true favorite of mine that has come very quickly because I love, whether I'm air drying or blow drying, how soft this makes the hair. So I'm just going to comb that through, brush it through really nice and evenly. And then we're going to do our very quick sectioning. So let's talk about a fringe, because I think when we get into a shaggy shape, we are talking about the fringe and the face framing. That's what your customer is going to see right off the bat. So the way that I like to choose that fringe is going to be based on density, on a little bit of the face shape. So what I like to do is, again, looking at how much density we need. Now, this mannequin already has a fringe cut in, which I think is something that you might find a lot when that customer comes in. Most of us don't have someone walking in, with long hair with no pre-existing haircut. So we're going to work around this fringe and we're going to customize it for a shaggy shape. So what I'm going to do is, I think if we look at this here, what makes this very modern, and this would be a tip that you would give your customer, is the way to really style this shape is pushed forward a little bit, right? So we can see that everything is directed a bit forward, and that's what gives it more of that like modern feel. So the best thing we can do is create a haircut that is automatically going to want to do that. And the way I can do that is by working off the round of the head. So that's going to be where I create that front fringe, is just where the front of the head starts to tip forward a bit. So really quick and easy, we're just going to section that off. Once I get this in a clip, I will show you. So you can see here where my comb rounds off at the head, and that's going to be where that fringe shape starts. We're going to go through in a triangular shape and create that section. And I will say that getting this sectioning clipped off is sort of like creating that blueprint for the haircut. Behind the chair, this haircut is only going to take you, I would say, honestly, 10 to 15 minutes. But creating that blueprint first helps you very efficiently go through this, take your sections. If you're not teaching it like I am today, it really should only take about 10 or 15 minutes. And getting that clipped off is going to help set you up for success and give you a very quick haircut. Now, the other key thing is I want to make sure, especially because we're looking for this elongated shape, is to make sure that it goes all the way to the corner of the brow when it is naturally laying. So that means I'm not putting a lot of tension on it, that we are just getting that shape when that hair lives naturally. Again, this is going to be great for that customer that really just wants wash and wear. Maybe they are going to do a quick blow dry. So we can see here that pretty much everybody is going to have a colic, a little directional patterning. And I want to make sure that all of the hair is covered to the sides, that we aren't going to have any little gaps in the hair. So I've got that section there. We're going to clip that off quick. And this is all going to be done in 3 cuts with a little bit of customization. So very quick fringe. And I think, again, like I said, this haircut can all be done as one, but I want you to think as we're going through this today about how you can use some of the sectioning and haircuts for your customers, that it doesn't have to necessarily be this whole haircut. Maybe you're just looking to create a beautiful texturized fringe. This can definitely be done in a little bit longer fashion as almost like a curtain fringe. Maybe you're just looking to remove some weight and give a new look to a customer that is looking to add some layers in. This can be a very quick layering technique as well. So think about these as almost like puzzle pieces to create your own looks. All right, so once we have that set up, now it's really quick. So we are just going to go off of that high point of the head. So right where that's going to round off to behind the ear. Super easy. This is not going to be a very big section. Once I get this clipped off, I will show you the sectioning. And I will say, if you have a customer that's coming in and they want a more dramatic side part, I would part that off to the side when you are doing this haircut. If they tend to go back and forth, they kind of go wherever, I would still just do it right down the center, or obviously if they style down the center, which a lot of people are enjoying right now, then that would be what I would do. And you can see here, I am just doing like with the clip, the legs in the air, so the hair is held. I'm not going to wrap this up into a little knot. That's not necessary. We're going to be diving into this so quickly. So we're going to do the same on the other side. Very quick sectioning. And then the back, we're all just going to put into one clip. And again, keeping that hair saturated, but the smoothing serum is really giving me a lot of nice glide. And this one, I'm just going to clip off here, and then we are good to go. So I'll give you a quick peek. Again, just to recap, we have our top section. So you can see we have a nice thick triangular section that is going to lay completely from side to side when in its natural fall. We have our side sections from the high point of the head to behind the ear on either side. And then all of that back section is taken in one fell swoop. All right, now into the meat and potatoes of this. This is going to go so quick, you guys, so be ready, all right? So we're going to take sectioning. We're going to do this fringe, like I said, in 3 sections. Now, when I am looking for a beautiful, I guess I would say airy fringe, something that has less weight, we're talking about layering, right? We're going to be removing that weight. So we need to elevate away from that face to be able to give that layer. Now, I want to take a bit of length off of this. So I know I'm going to want, when this falls, let's say we've decided on bridge of the nose when it's wet, so it'll be a little bit higher than that when it's dry. So we're going to cut it right to the bridge of the nose. So that's going to be my target end goal. So I will just take one little section, and I'm going to come here so you guys can see. And I'm not using a lot of tension here, but this is just going to be my guide for the length. So bridge of the nose when there is no tension. All right, so now we're going to take that, and I'm going to be taking these sections and cutting from short to long. So I'm going to take that guide that I just put in, and we're going to elevate this really nice and high. Now, you could change how short these layers get by changing your finger angle. I like to go fairly flat and to the round of the head. And then this is going to fall much more light and airy. So after I take this guide in the middle, you can see here, so I'm connecting from the length that I determined that I want into that layer, right? Now, if for some reason your guest has a really large forehead, maybe you need to take that, comb it back up again and use that into a second finger hold, but you should be okay with just one. Now I'm going to take all of this hair and it's all going to come up into that center guide. So on this side of the head, I am going to remain on this section because I want to pull this in, and I'll turn it again when we get to the other side. So all of this is being brought up and in. The best thing you can do when you are behind the chair is utilize your mirror, right? So you have a mirror in front of you at your station. You can see how much you are over directing this into the center, because the more I over direct, the longer those corners are going to be, and short pushes long. So we're going to get a nice little sweep. Now, if I am, spending some time talking about like what happened on Love Island last night or whatever, we're we're going to over direct this, and then it's going to be too long and it's going to feel too heavy. So you want to make sure that you are just combing right into that sectioning. And I can see that we are right at center, and that is section 2, right? So we've got half of our fringe taken care of already. You can already see how much lighter this side is than this side. And that was simply done with one cut. All right, so on this side, we're gonna do the same thing, except because I wanna cut from short to long, I'm still gonna stay this way, which means I need to push this hair up and into the center, back into that guide. So get a clean guide, and then we will take that section straight up. So I'm going to turn this way so you can see that angle again. So again, I've got my guide straight up into the center, combing all of that, pushing that up. Missed one little piece right here. Here we go. All right. So now what I can do is I can lay this out. We can see how that is going to live. Now, if I want to add a bit more pieciness, you can see in this mannequin, I have some strong texture right around the face. So what I do is I just actually carve that right into that front line. And the way that I do that is simply by laying the hair down, and I'm going to keep this at low elevation, because the higher I take it, if I cut this, the line falls softer. So we added soft interior movement, but right along this edge, I want it to be a little bit stronger. So I want to be whittling out pieces. So I'm just going to come through here when it's wet. You can do this dry too if you need to, but I'm going to go through wet. And as I come through with my scissor, I am not doing big movements, right? So that's going to take a lot of hair out. I am simply just taking this and doing small little nips. So this is going to be what almost like whittles out. If you think about carving wood, that's what we're doing here. We're giving custom look to this guest. We're just going to shape this out And it's going to be different for every customer. Some customers might not need this part. Some you might find that you need to do more of this. It also will depend on what they had before. Now, on this customer, obviously, she had a very heavy fringe line. So I want to make sure to take a little bit of that away. So you can see my thumb is barely moving here. We're just nipping at that. And I like doing this over something like a texturizing scissor because I'm getting much more control and I'm really taking a little bit, I would say, a little bit stronger sections out of this. And that's going to be what really lets this live very piecey without the customer having to fuss and style a lot. So you're going to get more texture out of this and it's going to maintain that little bit piecier look. So you can see already how that's worked. All right, so now we have our texturized fringe. The rest is going to go super fast as well. Again, we're talking about body position. When we think about shag, we know that we're removing that weight, right? So again, I'm going to be elevating to layer. So we're going to be working at 90 degrees or above, and I'm honestly going to be taking this straight up to the top. So just like before, how we had our guide and we brought it right up to the middle, we're going to do the same. What I love about that is this is great for a customer that's like, I want something different, but maybe I don't want to lose a lot of length. This is a way that if that is that customer for you, you're able to save the length because you can see how far you can go with this layer and still maintain all of this length. If that's not a problem, obviously you're able to do this on a shorter length. I would actually say that this haircut and this technique can honestly be for any customer from, I would say, honestly, collarbone and longer. Now, obviously, the density is going to make a difference because we're taking out a lot of bulk. So if you have a guest that is super fine, they're going to need shorter hair to be able to wear this. But we will talk about some ways that you can maintain some of that density on the edge as well. All right, so we're going to take this first section. I'm going to take her down lower here. So our first section is going to be a completely different guide from the length of the fringe. Now you can make it as short as this top fringe piece. I don't feel the need to make it that short, but it's all in what you and your customer have decided. So I'm going to take that first section. Just going to dampen this down again. Again, that's really important. And we're going to take horizontal sections here. Taking that first section, again, straight up. So this is where our guide is if we were going to go through the fringe. That is going to be a lot of length taken off. I don't need to be that short, but I do want to remove quite a bit of weight. If I want to maintain the length that's here, I can take all of this length and I know that I can go as short as this because we're going to be pulling this up. Let me make her a little shorter so you guys can see here. This is a lot of hair we're working with today. All right, so there we go. So this is the length. The hair that comes up from the very bottom is that length. So if they want to maintain all of that length, I have to work within just taking off a bit of that. She's fine with taking off some length. She's ready for something fresh and new. But just know that if you're doing this technique, that would be how you know that you're going to maintain that length is by just checking that guide. But she doesn't really care. She's, like I said, she's ready for fresh new summer vibes. So we're going to get in there. Now, I also know that this piece of hair that is back here is going to be the guide for my back section. So I want to keep that in mind. How much layer do I want in this back? Now, the way that we kind of connect those two again is through finger angle. So if I want a shorter front into a longer back, I'm going to make sure to really angle my fingers when I do this to maintain some of that back length. If you have a customer that is really dense in the back, and you guys know, I know we've all been there, you've got that person that has so much hair in the back, they really complain about not having volume. This is going to be where maybe you're going to choose to keep your finger angle straighter so that more of that weight comes off when we get to the back. So I'm going to take my first section. I'm going to go right about here. And I'm going to take that first section, which is going to be the guide for the entire section of this. And all we have to do is keep pulling up. So now that you've been able to see that, I'm going to raise this up so you can see. So I come through and I'm taking this section, and you can take pretty thick sections. It depends on the density of the hair. Combing all of that straight up. I'm still staying on this side of the customer because that's going to be combing into the guide. You really want to make sure to get a nice clean comb from base to ends. And again, use your mirror to make sure that you are pulling this all the way up. Again, so if you are standing in front of the mirror, I would say to stand this way so that you can see that you were pulling this into the center, but not over centered. We want to really pull into ourselves, but to maintain that weight removal, we want to make sure to just go straight up. All right, if you have that guest that is maybe a little bit less dense and they get a bit skinny on the ends, what I would recommend doing is once you get to this bottom segment here, I would leave about 2 fingers worth of hair left out, disconnected from these layers that we can just visually connect at the end. And I'll show you that when we're done. So this is key if you have that customer that's just finer. Maybe they are a lot finer right through that front here, which I think happens a lot, especially for women over the age of 40 that have sort of lost some density. This is a good way to protect this weight that we have here. We can come through and connect that visually at the end if we want to. We're going to take one more section. So I would love to know if there's anybody live here, how many of you take sections horizontally like this when you are layering hair? I know that for the longest time, I found that I was just doing vertical sectioning. So more taking these vertical sections, which is great. That also has its purpose. But what I love about taking these horizontal sections is that I'm visually able to see how to connect this length to here right away. I create that guide and it's already setting me up for success. And by creating those horizontal sections, I'm able to really over direct that hair. And for me, it's just an easier way to see the end result as I'm cutting. So if you haven't been doing that, it's a great way to just sort of shake up the technique. You're going to get a lot of weight removal. All right, so you can see here now we've got a lot of that disconnect. We've got that weight removal, and then this is where I left that hair to then visually connect at the end. If you want to do that, you don't have to do that, but I'm going to just show you how that would work as we go through, because the guest that wants a shaggy shape, they're not going to go through, they're not looking to like measure everything to make sure that it is physically connected. It just needs to be visually connected. And this way, this end isn't going to get too skinny and overly wispy. So it's a great way to save and protect that baseline on a guest, on that customer that has that really fine hair. So it's a great way to do that. I would say, honestly, on this hair, she has enough density that we wouldn't need to do that, but I want to be able to show you those customizations that you can make. All right, so now we're going to take our guide, and that's just going to be from where that center was. And guess what? We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're just going to be over directing everything to the center and then leaving out those 2 fingers at the bottom to protect that line. And again, I'm going to stand on this side so that I am able to protect and sort of over direct. Also, this really makes it, oh, I'm sorry, I said I was going to stay on this side. I'm actually going to be on this side to cut from short to long. So I'm going to show you here as we come through what that looks like, making sure that you over direct right through the center. So I'm going to find my guide again, right here. making sure that I'm doing the same finger angle up or down just a little bit so that you can see as we go through. So clean sectioning, especially because really once I get this first cut in, I can take fairly thick sections and still do this really well, as long as I feel like I have control over the hair. So if you have bigger, strong hands and you feel like you can do this all in one section, after you create that guide, go for it. I have to do a couple more. My hands aren't quite so big. But again, I'm making sure that I'm pulling it all the way to the center. Not out here, because then we're not getting as much over direction and we're going to get too much layering, and not over directed too much because I want to make sure to get a lot of beautiful weight removal. So I would say that when you're doing this, you are probably going to be doing maybe 3 sections on each side. So for those of you, if you have especially a long length guest come in and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much hair here, how am I going to get through all this? 3 sections. It's not too hard. It goes really fast. Coming through, checking to make sure that I'm over directing correctly. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to brush her out just so you can see. And the way that we will connect this is once we get that back done, I can see where that length needs to be. And so that will be done at the end. All right, here we are moving into the back. So again, that sectioning that we did on the top is going to be what ends up being our guide for the back sectioning. So again, just like I said about the length, if you know that your customer is going to want to maintain all of their length, let's just say that that's what is the case. I'm going to put her down so you guys can see. All right, so this is my guide length. I'm going to take a vertical section and I'm going to comb all of this up and take that little guide section. All right, so, and actually some of this even falls out once we get to the bottom. So this length, you can see it drops out. So we're not going to have a problem maintaining that length with the guide that is current, because this guide is right here. So I know that I'm going to be able to take at least that much. If I want to take more, I can angle this a little bit further. That's going to take more of that weight out. If I want to remove less weight, I'm going to over direct that further towards the top of the head. So it just depends on how dense your client is. If they have finer hair, I would say you're going to want to do maximum elevation. If they have more dense hair, then you can take that to like a mid elevation. This one's going to go fast too, guys. All right, so we're going to take a little bit of our guide from here. So this is the length right where my fingers are. So I am going to take and connect that to what is back here. And then anything that dropped out of that section is going to be preserving that length. So what we're going to do from here is we had our guide section, and now we are just going to be taking big pie shapes and over directing each to its previous. So not like the top where we brought everything in. That's going to make the corners too heavy, but we're going to take each to its previous. So this section will come here, this section will come here. I would say again, you can probably get away with 2 or 3 sections on either side of that guide. It just depends on the density of the hair. So just know when you're doing any hair cutting, the further you pull away, the more length you're going to keep. So that means the length of the layers, that means the length of the actual like bottom length. So if you aren't wanting to maintain all that length, just don't pull as far up. It's that simple. It's the like laws of hair cutting. And I'm making sure to really comb through cleanly on each of those sections. Boom. All right, so that's one off of the guide. I think we're going to end up with 3 sections on each side, which is pretty good considering that this is a lot of hair to work through. And it still feels pretty damp. The ends are a bit dry, but where I'm cutting is nice and damp, so I'm comfortable with that. Now, if you want to, you can have your customer tip their head down a bit. That will make it a bit easier. All right, so we're going to tip up. And I just love being able to do these quick cuts in the salon. It really gives me some time to talk about take home products, how my customer is going to achieve this look at home, and to be able to show them how to apply those products in their hair. So, anything I can do to really give that customized service experience really helps, just helps create that experience that we're all looking to give. I think I always say, if all I had to work with was a spray bottle and a prayer, I probably wouldn't get the end result that I'm looking for, because you do need to have some products in the hair to be able to get that result. And the thing that I love about Paul Mitchell Clear, especially for this haircut, is it's such a soft, natural end result. So if you have someone who is looking to either air dry or diffuse their hair, these products are not going to be crispy, crunchy. They really work well for that soft, natural effect. Again, whether it's a customer that is looking for that dye and fragrance free opportunity, or it's just someone that's looking for a beautiful, soft, lightweight feel, this is going to be ideal for them. So here we just have a couple pieces. And again, I'm simply just taking each to its previous. It's so easy. Now, again, we're going to do the same on the other side. I am going to be pulling this up and into me when we are on this side. On the side that I'm now going to be cutting, I have to push away from myself. So I'm going to turn this way so that you can see this as we go through. So again, we're just working off of that guide that was down the center and a bit to the side. Oh, and I just love how I'm seeing that head shape already come into play. Like this shaggy shape is so beautiful because it really creates beauty by using the bone structure. All right, so I'm going to tilt it just a little bit more so you guys can see the angle. And we can have her tip her head down. So we have our guide. Whoop. But you can see how I'm maintaining that tension as I go through. So really stretching that hair out, making sure to scoop up that bottom and taking that off. I find that a lot of times if you find that a haircut feels a little heavy and blocky on the ends, I think oftentimes we sort of like give up on the bottom section a bit. So make sure that you are still taking the time to comb that as you go through. I think that's really important. That really makes a big difference, especially in long hair when you are adding a lot of layers. If you feel like the bottom gets really fat, it might be that you're over elevating or you're just letting all that hair drop out before you actually cut it. So take her down just a little bit. So again, I'm pushing each into its previous. So if you can see here, taking that section, coming through. So this is where I'm saying that this trouble spot kind of comes up, where I think sometimes people don't cut that enough. They don't take off that little corner, and it ends up creating just a fat heaviness at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to do this last couple. You won't see the cutting angle, but you'll see the placement. So I'm just going to take two more on this side here. So this one, I pick up my guide, but then I always push back into that guide because we want that over direction. So you can see how this is getting pushed here. If I comb towards myself, it's going to be pushed towards me. I don't want that. I want it to be pushed back towards that guide. You can see there. What I'll do is I'll come over here so that you can see how we stretch that out. So you can see there. And that's what you want to see, is that over direction and pull into your sectioning. So again, let's see, let's count up our sections all together. We had our fringe in 3, we had the sides in 3, so now we've got 9, and then we're going to have probably 3 on each side in the back. So we've got 15, I would say 15 to 17 sections is all you're going to need for this haircut. That's pretty easy. If every single one took you 60 seconds, you're going to have a 15-minute haircut, which is going to be great. And I honestly think once you get into the mode of it, it won't take 60 seconds to go through. And this last one, I'm just going to over direct just to make sure we get that corner. That's probably all that's going to be left on that very front section. All right, I'm going to get her nice and damp because we're going to talk about what is really going to make this style key. And that's going to be our styling glaze. And I really love this product and I can't wait to share this one with you. So before we get into that, I do want to talk to you about another product that I know that you guys have now available to you, and that is our beautiful Avapui conditioner. So, I mean, can we just take a moment for the beautiful glow up that Paul Mitchell has given the packaging? This is not only beautiful for us, it's beautiful for the planet. We're working with more post-consumer recycled materials, which I always love to share with my guests because honestly, our customers are really looking to make sure that their purchases make a difference. And that is, a great reason to pair with Paul Mitchell because we definitely are people and planet lovers. And so I think that it's a great thing to have that beautiful packaging that is also more kind to the planet. But I love the Avapui conditioner. If you guys have ever used the Avapui shampoo, it's a classic, it's beloved. I love how moisture balancing Avapui is, and that's of course our Hawaiian ginger plant. So if you maybe have a customer that has dry hair but finer hair type, I think that the Avapui conditioner is a great option for them because it really just puts moisture where it's needed and doesn't make the hair heavy. It has a beautiful light cucumber mint fragrance, and it's a gorgeous option. I also find that they really are multitaskers. So the Avapui shampoo is known to also be a great body wash. I personally have used the Avapui conditioner as a shave lotion. So if you have a customer that travels a lot, it's a great product to recommend to them because it's something that they can throw in their travel bag and be good to go. So definitely make sure you check that one out, give it a sniff. Obviously, it does have some fragrance in it, but I wanted to talk about that today because I know that's one that you guys have access to now, and it is awesome. It's definitely one that I've been not only having a lot of my customers take home, but one that I am using at the back bar a lot. All right. I think that already you can see that this haircut has a lot more shape to it. She has a lot more movement. If we look at the back, like I was saying, we can see more of the head shape now. And that's because we have these shorter layers in here. Let me move my hand so you can see. So we have these shorter layers that are going to give a lot of movement, but we still have a beautiful baseline. It's a pet peeve of mine when people start to have like what I call air hair, where it's like you don't know where the hair ends and the air begins because the ends get so wispy because whether it's a guest, like a customer that has really fine hair, or maybe a little chemical hair cutting going on, you know what I mean? Like maybe they had a few too many highlights and this hair is breaking off at the bottom and you can't see the ends. This is why we saved that bottom on the sides here. So now I can go through and I can simply connect visually these sides. So I really think honestly, this is already pretty visually connected, but I can see here, if I pull this out, I can see where that longer length is and where that dropout was. So I know that that's where I'm going to come in here and I'm going to whittle out a couple pieces just to create that connection. So again, we're just taking our thumb and very slightly connecting. And I'm just taking a couple pieces through to give that connection. Because again, it's already going to seem somewhat connected just because of how elevated we went. So we'll do the same on this side. And again, those tiny little nips, right? We are whittling precious woods. We're carving marble. Marble is expensive. A little bit goes a long way when we're doing these carvings. All right, so one last thing that I would say is, and it's not a have to do, but if you are working on a customer with really fine hair and you find that the front starts to look too wispy when you are doing your very layered haircuts, a lot of the reason that is, again, like I said, the more we elevate, we are over directing that hair and it's going to fall really soft. That is great for those guests, like a customer that's like Chewbacca, they've got more hair than they need. We want to make all of those lines very soft because it's going to fall really soft. It's not going to look choppy and chunky and too bulky. But on that customer that maybe has less density through the sides, they have finer hair, we want to have a bit more of a, not necessarily a solid line, but something that falls a little bit more crisp so that it looks like a fresh haircut, right? We don't want it to look like they need a haircut. We want it to look like they have a nice haircut. So that is when I'm going to maintain really low elevation right now. We're going to cut this hair where it's going to live in that haircut. And I'm going to make this a little bit more defined through the side here. So I'm going to do this side so that you guys can see from short to long. So we'll take this and I'm over directing forward a bit to preserve that length. And again, keeping this low elevation. So maybe right through here, I want to see a bit more crisp so that it isn't too wispy, especially I think on our fine guests. This is where we're going to see that. So I'm just going to take, and I do this at the end because I know where my target length is. I know I want to keep this. I just want to connect the two together. So I'm just using the tip of my scissor like a little pencil and I'm drawing in that line. And that is going to help keep that really nice and crisp. You can go up as far as you need to, depending on where the density is. So I'm just going to do the same through here. Really quick. So it's just one tiny little section. It depends on, again, the density of that guest. All right, so really quick, I'm going to show you how we're going to apply these products to give that guest a very wash and wear look. And I love this because if you didn't know, Paul Mitchell, the man, is who really made wash and wear hair really fashionable. It was about like sculpting the hair into a beautiful shape. letting it dry and having a great look at the end of the day. So we're just going to make sure that this hair is very damp. So this haircut is really ideal on a customer who has a bit of natural texture. If they are looking to have fuss-free hair, they don't want to really do a lot of styling, which is great. If a customer is okay with playing a little bit more, then obviously they can have a straighter fabric. But I find that like wavy to curly is great. So I'm going to take another half a pump of our smoothing serum. Again, a little bit goes a long way with this, but I am going to focus this on the edges of the hair. And I'm just simply laying this in. You notice that I'm not scrunching it in. I am really smoothing this over those edges. And this is just a beautiful way to apply to keep frizz free. All right. So once I do that, maybe I'm going to take a bit of this through the front. Now, to be able to apply to this much hair, I am going to subsection. I'm not going, it doesn't have to be like, please don't take this and like yank it up in a clip really tight, but I do want to subsection just really quickly so that I'm able to get a lot of even distribution of this product. And that's what I would honestly recommend to a customer as well. So the styling glaze. Would you guys agree that most of our customers are either looking for hold or control? So something that is, really going to give them that hold or controlling their frizz and texture. And I think that these two products do those things, right? You're going to get beautiful lasting memory from this styling glaze. I love that this is lightweight enough that you can absolutely use this on any of your customer base, whether they have fine, medium, coarse hair. I definitely would lean a little bit more into using some of the smoothing serum if they do have coarse hair. But this styling glaze is not too heavy for anyone. So these truly are products that you can use on anyone. I would say I'm using about 4 pumps altogether of the styling glaze for this length. And I'm going to make sure to really get that smoothed through the top and definitely through the fringe. This is where we want to get a bit of this through that fringe line. And then I would simply have the customer tip their head over, give it a little natural shake. So this way we're able to see how their natural texture lives. Have them do a little bend and snap. And then it's all about just placing that hair where we want it. So I would just push this fringe through the top here to get a little bit of definition. I might just take a couple pieces right around the face where they're going to notice it and just do a couple little finger twists. And I will have a video going up on my Instagram showing how just some tips and tricks on how to do this. I'll show you actually how I styled out that other mannequin. So if you want to follow me at Kelly Rettenberger, that will be going up soon. So you can check that out just to see how I created that look on the mannequin. So definitely give a follow if you want to see these products in action and see the wet to dry finish. But I always say if a haircut looks good when it's wet and fuss free, it's going to look great when it's dry. Again, I think that these products are perfect for this haircut because it's that very like lived in, not try too hard feel. I love the texture of this. You can certainly go through with some of the smoothing serum on dry hair for a little bit more polish as well. It can be used both wet and dry. But I think that, I mean, just the transformation in her fringe alone just really creates that beautiful shaggy shape. And like I said, I want you to think of this haircut as a way to take bits and pieces from this to create your own custom haircuts for a customer, right? So you can listen to their needs, and now you know how to remove more weight, you know how to remove less weight, how to protect those edges, how to protect the length, and how to give a simple texturized fringe in 3 sections. So if we have any questions, we can go over those. Again, I cannot wait for you to get your hands on Paul Mitchell Clear. I am using them behind the chair every single day. I think that it's really great for those customers that want those dye and fragrance free options for sensitive skin, but please know that it's not just for that customer base. These are beautiful products that anyone can use and enjoy.